Hello everybody, and today we are looking at different steam engines for different parts of the country. For instance, you have prairie engines, you have mountain engines, you have all-around, all-terrain kind of engines. You can have different things. Then you have different areas, like you need special tenders for special areas that you have longer to travel without watering coal. You need a bigger tender. So that'll be what we're talking about. We're going to even talk about a bit of narrow gauge, which is the first on the channel, but I love narrow gauge trains quite a bit. I love standard gauge trains quite a bit. If you told me to choose, I would probably not be able to do that because it's impossible. The difference between narrow gauge and standard gauge is narrow gauge is 3 feet wide and standard gauge is 4 feet 8.5 inches. This is a 282 K37. Now, a K37, the K stands for Mikado, and 37 would be the weight. 37 tons. So there's also K36, K27, and K26, which are they're similar, just size. Which of course gives you tractive effort. I know K26 and 27s are better for passenger service more, or commuter service, tourist service versus freight service, because you need more power for freight. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, and the next clip will show your other series of engines, so enjoy seeing these. Now, the 460s were a Class A railroad engine that ruled the roost, but as train cars got bigger and better, trains needed to be heavier. Or not heavier, but the trains themselves got heavier. Therefore, the locomotives that were used to holding 40-foot boxcars went to 60-foot boxcars, holding more freight in them. Train car themselves weighed more, therefore they got demoted either to yard work, or they got sold off to what you call a short line, which is anything from a 5-mile stretch of railroad to maybe 50 miles. And typically they'll service things like mines, smelters, and stuff. But this is a 260, another common engine to serve short lines. And 260, very common steam engine, again found in yards. Yard work engines at this time could have been anything from a 260 to a 460 or a 10-wheeler, which is basically a 460. They're also called, they're kind of an all-terrain vehicle, or not vehicle, but train. No, it's not really what you call them. Now, the 442 Atlantic is used by many railroads, which I don't think this is one that got demoted to yard work. But again, not a yard work engine, because most yard work engines are 060s, 080s, 040s. But again, very popular passenger engine. Maybe one that was sold to short lines. You don't see many Atlantics unless you're playing with toy trains. We all love toy trains. So, just another train that you commonly see. This is obviously a Pennsylvania engine, and I'll point out the fact that it burns a cheaper coal, which is more like a dust. And that's why you'll have bigger fireboxes to get bigger grates for more BTUs on the fire. Okay, so this is what you call consolidation. Another engine that would be sold to, later on, short lines or demoted to yard work. But again, a nice engine. And then you end up with, this might be narrow gauge actually. I can't tell. The cab looks really large, and it sits up tall for being narrow gauge. But the smoke box looks like a narrow gauge smoke box. Okay, so have you ever heard of a switcher, an 082? What is this thing? These aren't the safest engines to work on. These need their own other video because they're a strange engine. You rarely see an engine with no pilot truck but a trailing truck. Don't ask why. Okay, the 462 Pacific. Very popular engine by many railroads. These are great engines for just about anything from a prairie to winding by a river. Beautiful engines. Very much an all-purpose engine. Now, these were designed by the USRRA. Now, the USRRA was an attempt on standardizing American locomotives. So, you had Baldwin, you had Lima, you had ALCO, or American Locomotive Works. It's ALCO short for American Locomotive Works. But the Pacifics were made by the USRRA. Now, other companies made the 462, but USRRA made the Light Pacific and the Heavy Pacific. Now, other Pacifics, kind of strange. These look rather nice. Now, Heavy Pacifics are typically used for freight, Light Pacifics, passenger, but when the Mikado came out, they used them for basically all passenger. So, the 282 Mikado, there's also Heavy Mikados and Light Mikados, very much with the USRRA. They made a light and heavy version of everything. From a Northern, to a Mikado, to a Pacific. Everything, you either had a light or a heavy. This, I believe, is a heavy, judging by the smoke box door size. I can't really judge by the firebox, but I can judge by the front. I think it's a heavy. But then you hit the 484, which this is not one made by the USRRA. Many reasons. They have a screw reverser on it, which that's another video. They have much different steam domes, and I think this one's a bit bigger because of the smoke box. So I don't believe these are USRA Northerns, but if it was a USRA Northern, you could get a light and a heavy Northern if you were to buy a railroad piece of equipment. So that's just one of the things, but as always, another nice engine. So this one needs absolutely no introduction. The 4884 Big Boy. I mean, who doesn't know about this engine? Recently restored in 2019 for the Golden Spike anniversary. That was, I haven't seen it, but man, I would love to see it. Well, anyways, a beautiful engine. Now, I mean, 4014 burns number 5 oil, I think. Challenger, probably the same, but this is the 4664 Challenger. Now, this is where the Big Boy originated from. They basically had another set of drivers and called it the Big Boy. So, this Challenger from the pictures have elephant ears. And if you don't know what elephant ears, they're also called smoke deflectors, hence the name. You probably can have a good assumption what they're for. So, very popular for double heading, as a matter of fact. But they made something a little bit smaller. The 412-2. Now, this is, if you want to talk about prairie engine, this is your prairie engine. Obviously, 12 drive wheels will not happen. And this one's unique, because coming from a music standpoint, most steam engines run at 4/4 time, which is kind of a musical thing. If you have double acting cylinders times 2, that's 4/4. And the 412-2 runs at 6/8 time. So, more on that in another video. So the 4th row American, as you can see here, we recently did a video on these. Now, the thing about these particular engines is they're common wood or coal burning engines, and you saw them all over the place. You even see them in the movies, a lot of them from the Virginia and Truckee. Now, these were built by multiple companies. Either A, the railroads themselves scratch built them, or B, they're made by Rogers or Baldwin locomotives, and then a handful of others. So, very nice engines. And welcome back to the Train Bandit Game Show, and today we are answering the question of, what is this? A box, B, a doghouse, or C, a conductor's front of train cupola? Answer: conductor's front of train cupola. But it's also called the doghouse. But the doghouse is also a nickname for the caboose. Now, in a sense, this is basically the caboose, but on the tender of a steam engine. So now what's this? It's 284. But what's its nickname? Berkshire, Northern, or Mikado? Now, tenders, which is the thing behind the big steam engine. Just to clarify that. Okay, most of y'all probably know that. They either haul oil or coal, and then you have your water. Also, where you find the doghouse, or front of train conductor's cupola. So, have you ever heard of the B&O, or Baltimore and Ohio, long tender? The reason why they call them long tender is because they're really, really long, therefore holding a lot more coal and water. Now, commonly on railroads, you need to have water, otherwise you go into your old so famous crown sheet explosion. Or, you realize you're so low on water and dump water into the boiler, and you crush it from the inside. Which, yeah, well, that's another video. But they're designed for long distance travel. So in other words, we don't have water until this point. We need a big tender because otherwise we're going to have a big explosion in the middle of the woods somewhere. We don't exactly want to see shrapnel flying out of the sky. That's typically not good. So that'll wrap it up for today's video. And as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section down below. And now, we're going to get some awesome music from my band I hired. Without further ado, hit it, band. What's this? You're not doing it? Okay.